afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses. Anthony Stabile and Andy Serling on a beautiful Saturday out here at Aqueduct. Looking forward to a 9-race card and a lot to talk about, so we'll head right over to NYRA Bets. We've got the free $25 play along with the $200 sign-up bonus. Good time to sign up for NYRA Bets. Ooh, that's a switch, right? I mean, I'd like to think that's Forte, being that he is the likely Derby favorite, being in there, but you never really know. But anyway, we got the free $25 play and the $200 sign-up bonus. Use Derby25 as your promo. That'll run, I imagine, through the Kentucky Derby.
It will.
We also have Cross Country Pick 5, the Elkhorn Stakes at Keeneland, the Times Square here, the Ben Ali. We've got the Oaklawn Handicap and the famous Bathhouse Row Stakes.
I'll have a ticket up for that.
And do we know what the Bathhouse Row is?
It's 3-year-olds. It's
No,
nine
I
furlongs.
know what the race is.
Oh, it's down at Oaklawn Park. They have the row of bathhouses down in Hot Springs.
I got you. It's like this the baths.
There's
in
also
Saratoga.
a filly race, Andy, the Valley of the Vapors. I'd like to go to the Valley of the Vapors, maybe to just get a little rebirth, if you will.
I was on the Valley of the Vapors on the subway coming out here, actually, believe it or not. What else do we have?
Different kind of vapors. I think it's different vapors.
You don't know.
I don't know for sure, but I think they're different.
It's legal now, Anthony.
It is legal now.
Fine.
Yes.
Middle pick 4. The biggest change, of course, is Saratoga. Middle pick 4, race 3. So pick 4s in races 2, 3, and 6. We have $20 bonus, 75 on Aqueduct, Oaklawn, and Santa Anita. So I'm presuming our friend Frank Miramati is back at work at Santa Anita, as they'll be running through June, into June. And finally, last but not least, America's Day at the races 1 to 7. We've got a crew down at Oaklawn as well, covering the stakes there, including the Oaklawn Handicap, which looks like a fun race. Race number 1 at 6 furlongs on the turf. Start off with the white-hot Ray Handel barn. Horses have been running unbelievably well, and I know this horse looks slow. We'll head out to the Meadowlands, because who doesn't like to take a trip out to the Meadowlands, especially in April? And we'll take a look at this horse running second. You know, normally I'd look at this horse and say it's kind of a joke, but, I mean...
Not in this field.
I don't know. And didn't Bleecker Street break her maiden at the Meadowlands?
She did.
And I don't want to make too much of these figs back then, and I don't really know what to say about these, but you really going to tell me you want to just completely dismiss this horse? This horse is a major player.
No, not at all. 2-year-olds on turf.
For
We're not going
Ray?
to worry about those figs. You and I have talked about that.
There's no form in here.
There's no form in here. No. No, there's no reason. This horse came back look, say what you will about the fig. Horse came back in 18 days and ran pretty well as a 2-year-old. No qualms.
Ran against real horses first time out.
The way the barn's going?
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm not letting him beat me.
I'm going to let the horse you have on top beat me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This horse's race in Florida were absolutely atrocious. I get it, but I don't want this horse at a short price.
You want to know what the funny thing is? I never understood running this horse long. I thought this horse's first race where...
The horse ran well enough long.
I guess. Those last 2 races, though, I mean...
That's my problem.
Just against a much better...
I know they were big prices, but
expand the map.
The horse is just atrocious.
Maybe. Drops in,
I
state
get
breds,
it. She can win. I've got her third. I don't want this horse at all. She wins, I lose. Dance Me Babe, the horse that you have second, I have fourth, seemed okay. I didn't think she did much running last time, but she did have legitimate early trouble in that race. I'm taking Maddie's Grace here, and obviously I'm not standing on particularly solid ground. She is a half to a turf winner, 1 for 1 that tried it. No superstar whatsoever, but there is enough turf pedigree. It's a hard spun. And the first race actually wasn't that bad, relatively speaking, and if the horse can improve a little off that on the turf, I felt she was competitive. Obviously, things went badly wrong since then. You've got a trainer switch to John Kimmel. I just thought in this race, this horse had enough to like, because if, like me, you're going to take a shot against the 7, there is just no form on anybody.
I watched the last replay. And I don't know anything about this, but she runs like a horse she looks like a horse that bled. So the LASIX will probably help her.
We'll see. And listen, a field like this can certainly wake the number 7 up. Race number 2, they're going 1 1/8 miles, and we'll start with Ride Up and First Money in here, 2 logical players. I mean, I don't have a big problem with the entry, except it's an entry, and I think that Kaon took advantage of being on a good rail. We did see, it does seem like a decent race. If you see horses, I think, was it the first winner come out of that race yesterday? I think that's the case. Ride Up, my worry with Ride Up is, are you really confident this horse can get better with extra distance?
No, I don't have Ride Up anywhere. I don't like Ride Up today. I don't know what I mean, he ran okay last time. Did he run any better than his sprint race 2 starts back? I don't know if he did. I guess the mile race against Register and Asmodeus was okay too. I just
well, his races are all good. He was out running a speed track 2 races back. He ran into a killer field 3 back, but I just wonder if he gets better with more distance.
I don't think he does.
So
I really don't think he does.
So what's your Huntington story?
I thought, I got a push on Huntington after the show last time. Have to law professor who Rob also trains. Blinkers goes on for the second. So this horse took some money last time out at 6.5 to 1. Barn does okay with the second-time starters. The short figs, the blinkers ons has been a positive.
Well, they're
move
better
for
with
Rob.
first-time starters. They're not really a second-time starter, Barn, but okay.
I think this horse is going to improve with the experience under his belt. Gets a little bit of a better draw. I don't think distance is going to be a problem with this horse's pedigree. I think there are a lot of things and you know what? I don't trust this entry. I don't really like any of the short prices in here. I'm not a ride-up fan. He's going to be, I don't think he'll be a bigger price than Pioneering Spirit, but he's going to be one of the bigger prices in here. I just want a little bit of a fuzzy in a race where I don't want the favorites.
If you watch his last race, he took a bad step around the turn at some point. It almost seemed like Hendrick had a brief moment of thinking of pulling him up, and he kept riding him in there. I've got him second. It was a wet sealed track. He does have the pedigree to go long. Something went wrong first time. I agree, he got bet first time, and I don't find him to be impossible either, especially because I'm not a fan of Ballantine. I'm not going to take this entry. I'm not going to be surprised when one of them wins. I think First Money is the more likely of the two, but I don't think Kaon is impossible.
He's not impossible, but he already ran him for the tag, right? So he kind of, I don't want to say I'm sick of him, but.
Well, he's had his share of chances for Chad Brown. Pioneering Spirit's okay, but he's also had his share of chances, mostly for Todd Pletcher. As far as Shreveport, I think Shreveport is interesting stretching out. I was looking up some stats. I didn't put it up. Stretching out on the dirt, second off a 6 to 12 month layoff, and we're taking a look at Ballantine. Sorry, I didn't even realize that. And here is Ballantine losing at 30 cents the dollar. Was joking around with Manny Franco and Dan Stupp, Chad Brown's assistant, and Manny was saying, I'm trying to ride this horse. He lost at a short price. I said, that's what you get for going to Parks. But he said his mom was there, actually, so I gave him that. But as far as Shreveport ran big figures the first 2 times. Ran against some decent horses, Baltazar, and at that point looked good. But Artorias, who we thought was going to turn out to be a decent horse. And then last time out, he just got run off his feet by Harrodsburg, who looks like a stakes horse for Rob Atras. That was a super impressive win.
He was favored into him, too. Harrodsburg was a big push, and he was favored right into him.
Well, no, they were betting somebody else. Not Ocasek. They were betting another Chad Brown horse in the race. Ocasek was a first-time starter for Chad Brown, but there was another Chad Brown in there that they liked that didn't do much running.
He went 4th or 5th,
I looked up stretch outs in the dirt, second off a 6 to 12 month layoff. Not a big stat, but 3 for 8 for Bilmont, 310 ROI, 0 for 1 with maidens, but just feels like a horse that'll probably do better stretching out, has a big pedigree, so I'll give that horse one more chance. Seemed like an interesting race. Seemed like there was a lot going on in race number 2. Right. Race number 3 is the Woodhaven. I don't understand. It was like an allowance race the other day at Keeneland. That was chock full of killer horses. None of these horses thought maybe I'd be better off running in the Woodhaven because, with all due respect, I mean, this race is there for the taking. And it's like, do people ever look and see at other options for their horses? It's very strange. It really is. You have Inflation Nation on top. We'll take a look at him winning his maiden, and I'll let you talk about him.
Yeah, at first I thought maybe he'd be the speed in here, and then I realized that the speed will absolutely be High Strike. I always thought this was a horse that was going to want a little bit more ground. And
why didn't Christophe ever stretch him out then as a 2-year-old?
I know. And I guess he had one opportunity to after the futurity, because after the maiden win, the next logical step was the futurity off the 2
That's fine.
race. Right.
Try to make the Breeders' Cup.
Last time would have been the time. He had a little bit of a trip when he was kind of blocked in the futurity, I guess. So he gave him one more chance, and then he sent him to the bench. I don't know. Listen, I agree. But I wonder if Christophe was thinking what your thinking was about the allowance race. This is not going to be the toughest spot in the world. Let's try and stretch him out in an easy spot.
I get that, and I agree with that thinking. Having said that, that doesn't mean he's going to want more distance in here.
No, absolutely not. But I feel like he's naturally going to be in a good spot. He's supposed to be right off of High Strike, not too far behind him, because they have a target. And you would imagine that. And this horse has had he hasn't had trouble, but he's kind of, I'm hoping the distance allows him to get a cleaner trip. He's had a couple of not clean trips in his last 2 starts.
Yeah, he's been mediocre. The reality with this horse is he's been a disappointment. He ran very well in his debut, and his maiden win was just okay. He's been disappointing. Now, what about your friend Louis Lazzanera with Christophe Clement and not Chad Brown? Do you feel that he's being disloyal here?
He's had this horse all the time.
I know, but I think that we never had this discussion.
We didn't talk about this last summer, though.
I'm just wondering. I'm just trying to see if you have some inside information on this.
I have no inside information.
I'm kidding, by the way. Chad Brown has 2 in here. Now, the one who's favored, and we'll get to Norrell in a second. Give Norrell, just wait a minute, is the number 4 Belluni. And I know that he got a good fig in his first race down in Florida. This horse was absolutely atrocious in this race. And I don't want any part of this. Now, I got it. He got a good fig. But a lot of times you get good figs in turf races because you're in good races. It's not like any of his European races were good. His European races are decidedly mediocre. And I just thought his race last time was, I can't bet him off that. And I think people are going to bet him because it's Chad Brown. He ran a stake race and he got an 80 buyer. But I don't feel like he's, I mean, 80 buyer may win this race. But I don't feel like an 80 buyer is going to, we're going to see this horse necessarily run an 80 buyer, unless the winner runs an 88. Wait, I got a text from Christophe Clement. He may have some inside information on this. He said Louis made a mistake. He should have given this horse to a better trainer, but he ended up with me. I understand. You make a great point, Christophe.
I don't disagree with anything you just said about Belluni. He does have the race under his belt, though. And, I said this to Greg the other day on the show, and it's a little on America's Day at the Races, and it's a little different when you're talking about cheap maidens and talking about stakes horses. How many of these horses have we seen get a race under their belt and just improve second time and win?
Well, the one that ran got beaten in the nose for second in the allowance race that Chad Brown won with the European. That horse has run terrible in Florida, absolutely terrible, and did run a lot better yesterday.
That's
so
what I mean.
Listen, I'm being I'm being a wise guy and throwing this horse out completely, basically, but I'm not going to be shocked when this horse runs.
And there's no killers in here. That's the other problem. There's no killers in here.
I like Neural Network.
Okay.
Cloud Computing, I believe, it's turned out to be a surprisingly good sire so far. He's had one crop. We'll take a look at his race last time out, even though it's on the dirt. I'll wait. And there's enough turf in this. I mean, there's enough turf. The dam won on the turf. He's produced the horse that ran okay on the turf. Couldn't run on the dirt. It's not a huge pedigree, but it's a pedigree that this horse could move forward in the turf. I think there's a good chance for us to turf horse. Now, obviously, this is sort of a shot for them. Figure there's no real New York bred race to run him in. You can always wait for the Mike Lee. What are we going to do with him over the course of the next 2 months between races, or 3 months, really? So taking a shot in the turf. I got a feeling this horse is going to handle the turf, and I'm going to take Neural Network to handle the turf in this race. What about the horses from Fairgrounds? I know we have to be nice about the horse in the rail for people who just came and visited us, and we wish them the best of luck. But doesn't that horse have to improve?
He has to improve, but I'll tell you what, I like him better than I like Winter's Lion. I don't think Winter's. See, you have Winter. I don't think Winter's Lion did any running in his turf races.
I don't agree.
I really don't.
I think he ran against better horses.
I think he ran against better horses, but I don't think. You really think he did much running in these races?
Enough running in his race at Sam Houston. That's not a bad race. He was bad last time. There's no doubt about it. He was bad last time. I'm not in love with him either. I'm going to tell you what. I'm suspect of the 5 getting the distance, and I like Neural Network here. The rest of them, I think you're going to have them.
Okay.
But I'm not. Listen, Neural Network doesn't handle the turf. This race is wide open to anybody. Race number 4. Race number 4, we both have the same horse. I will let you talk about I'm Just Kidding.
Yeah, I'm Just Kidding. First time Lasix. They ran this horse. This was the horse coming out of 3 unit. No, who did we talk about earlier that was coming out? Was this the Pimanova race or no? No, somebody else. Anyway, one turf sprint was the win. Ran this horse back in the Miss Grillo. I don't know what happened in the Maiden in the Mist. Something enough where this filly, she got into some trouble at the start, and then she was gone for a while. So I'm assuming something went wrong because she missed all of the New York bred races over the winter.
She's a New York bred, and they probably want to run on the turf.
Right, but she ran well enough first time on the dirt, I would imagine.
She was down in Florida with John Kimmel.
Yeah.
I mean, he obviously was waiting. She's been working well in Florida. I think he wants to run this horse in the turf. I thought she really ran okay when she broke her maiden that day. 3 Unions came out of that race. She won her next turf start. So I just thought she was super logical in here. I mean, she'll probably be one of the favorites in here, but I just thought she was very logical. But I did consider putting my friend Master of the Tunes on top. But let's take a look at Lisa's Vision and Tis a Pity. And I can't believe it. You've resisted Tis a Pity. You've finally given up on Tis a Pity.
I try to surprise you now, Andy.
Yeah, you've given up on her.
The Clement horse, a few Clements I've surprised you with.
Yeah, she's not.
Can't do it anymore.
This is the race on October 23rd, I believe. I mean, she had just an easy trip coming. She's a horse that just had good trips in her races. Lisa's Tune had a good trip. Thought she ran pretty well. I found an absolutely remarkable stat, however, involving Lisa's Vision. Now, we're going to show 2 stats on both of these horses, both horses that I'm assuming will take money. I think Lisa's Vision has a shot. We'll start off with the Christophe Clement stat. And it's in this stat, it's the same really when you look at his horses going long. 4 to 12-month layoffs. He's 20%. It's not bad. $1.40 ROI. His horses, and he even said it yesterday with the horse that she did run second, but she had an easy time on the front end. Denise probably need a start, and I think it's by intention that Christophe's horses off layoffs need a start. Now, this stat I found for Titi, for Jorge Abreu, is unbelievable. How about that? The same 4 to 8 month layoff on the turf. 0 for 34 with only 5 of them hitting the board.
That's the worst part of that stat.
I mean, his horses clearly seemed to race off the layoff. A couple of reasons that I didn't want them. I almost picked Master of the Tunes on top. She just never really wins, and that's sort of tiresome. But I'll tell you something. The race we're going to show right now for Master of the Tunes, she closed in here and closed for third, and this was a merry-go-round race. The horses that ran 1-2, they were 1-2 around the racetrack, and Patria had shown that good form up in Saratoga, and I thought Master of the Tunes ran fine here. The problem with Master of the Tunes is she's a tough horse to ride, and I think Romero's just going to have to sort of sit in the rail and hope he gets lucky, but she'll be a price. I'm going to use her.
Yeah. I know she's one of the, actually, you love this horse.
Well, the race she ran with Dylan, she should have won that September 25th race. And I don't blame Dylan, but she moved too soon. The winner got absolutely tripped. And Spongy was in great form at that point.
You got to time it perfectly.
She has at times run some very good races. She is one of the better 1 for 18 horses in here. So I've got her second here. What am I missing with fleet-footed?
I don't know. I know you hate the short numbers, but Joe Sharp's numbers off the long layoff are pretty good. In a race where you just showed 2 mediocre stats, the short numbers are pretty good.
This is a deceptive stat, though, because this is the short stats should be eliminated from the form. They're completely, in fact, you were quoting a short stat recently on the show, and it completely screws you up about Jorge Duarte, who actually has very good numbers looking at layoffs, extremely good numbers. You have to be very careful.
Well, the one horse ran terribly, and the other horse won. The other horse was a stakes horse, and one horse was a maiden.
So 1 for 2.
Yeah, but that's on the day.
It doesn't. We're not. You're talking about specifics. I'm talking about generals. Don't use them. Okay. Let's tell you why this looking at bad. 180-day plus layoff. This horse has been off for just over 200 days. The bottom end of it. Wouldn't you rather look at a stat that shows the kind of the 4 to 8 month layoff we were talking about? Wouldn't you like to cater a stat? Because this horse basically was off, well, the turf season was over. I mean, yeah, missed a start in November.
Yeah, but he could have taken this horse out of time. I mean, I know she's a state bred.
She's a New York bred.
She's also a sprinter.
But she's a New York bred.
Yeah, I guess.
She was down at Fairgrounds. He gave her the winner off to come back to New York bred races. He's running her right away as soon as we get back to the state bred races. So
but aren't those to my point?
But no, because you're looking at a stat that may include horses that are coming off of.
You don't think she's live? You don't think she's live to that point?
Oh, I'm not saying she's not live. I'm talking about the stats. You're missing the point. I'm talking about the short stats.
Skip the stats.
I'm not saying she can't win.
Fine.
I'm telling you, don't use the short stats because they're not accurate.
And they're isn't that live to my point? I think she's very live today.
That's fine. The stat is all I'm talking about. The stat is not telling an accurate story. This horse can absolutely win.
There's not a lot of gas in here. If she can get loose in here, and there's a chance she can get loose in here.
Well, Sarah Gaze and Kendrick are going. Give me a break. I mean, they're going. Her only good races are on the front end. Kendrick's going. She'll be forward, but Kendrick's got to go.
Well, I'll tell you what.
If you don't think this pace is going to be quick, then you're not looking at this
She
race.
had 0 speed last time, and I know it was a dirt race.
It was a dirt race. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Kendrick's going.
All right. Well, she's got to bring that speed back.
Yeah,
she didn't have it off 6 months last time.
A dirt race
I think
last
she's
time.
I think she's very live in here at a big price.
Well, 4 will be forward, but 9's supposed to be forward as well. Race number 5. Race number 5. I'm just going to try to wire the field.
Yeah. I thought I thought this horse made an awful lot of sense. I think this horse's form is a little dirtied up too. 2 starts back.
How's it dirtied up?
The other speed.
Big figs.
Well, because I think the last 2 races kind of make people believe this horse is tailing off form a little bit.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't think anyone will believe that, but okay. That's fine.
I think this horse was in a real tough in the starter 10. I forgot what they call it, but on the Claiming Crown day. I think this horse faces a much easier bunch of horses today.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's true at all.
Really?
No, they're not a much easier bunch of horses. I mean, Romantic Gamble didn't exactly have particularly good form coming into that race. It's not like you're looking at a race came up with a particularly tough field. Listen, he can wire the field. I'm not telling you he can't, but I don't agree with your assessment of the last race compared to this. Agility's running good figures, and we'll look at agility in Brajol. Brajol's in pretty good form. His figs are close enough. Agility's running 3 of the last figs.
Agility just doesn't win.
I agree. I'm not Agility's biggest fan. Listen, I'm not saying your 8 can't wire the field. I don't like him today, but I could be wrong. He could wire the field, but I think you're saying his form's
He's just so much faster than these horses.
He's fast. He's going to be in front. I don't disagree with you. And there's not a lot of speed in the race. I agree. And Agility's not a winning type. Supposed to be sitting relatively close. I'm impressed with it. I'm not in love with him, but I don't trust Longer 2. I think this horse got helped by 2 major biases, 2 and 3 back. I don't think the last race was that bad, but I don't think it was that good. And I have a feeling this is a horse that was dramatically helped by the bias, running at lower level races, and I just think is meeting better horses today. To be honest with you, I like this horse too for charging. I'll take a look. We'll go back to Saratoga. We've been to Meadowlands. We've been everywhere. We haven't been to Belmont yet in our replays. We got to get. Well, it's hard to find a Belmont replay. We haven't been there since before Saratoga.
Right.
But
that's crazy to think like that.
Yeah, I mean, we would have had some, right? We would have shown the previous race. They would have been at Belmont. I mean, listen, this horse, he got it done last time. But the thing about him is, he doesn't have much speed, and I agree. And the race is going to have to be run to him. And if I'm right in the 8 is not effective, that brings the race back. If you're right about the 8, then I'm not going to win with this horse because the race is going to hold together. He's not going to make his run. But this was a good effort. I thought he got a foolish ride 2 back. I thought he was just too close in there. And I get it. He was stretching out. I'm not trying to blame Jose. I should say what turned out to be a mistaken ride and trip in there. And I thought he's run okay in his other 2 races.
And not for nothing, he faced a couple of really nice horses in that race.
He's faced some pretty good horses.
Yeah, he's faced some good horses overall.
I got to use Central Pride a little bit. You realize that Randy almost won with an impossible 30-1 shot the other day off the claim. The Randy Persaud numbers off the claim in dirt sprints are outrageous. And I mean, a lot of people are going to look and say, oh, this horse is claimed by Randy Persaud from Rob Atras. Good luck to this horse. I don't know. He's 6 for 24 off the claim at dirt sprints with a 585 ROI. I'm telling you, you want to throw in goofy horses at prices or at least use them somewhere and try your supers? Throw in Central Pride. I know he's way too slow. All I know is that Randy Persaud's horses run off claims. I know. I agree. I agree with all of everything else. But you want a stat? I'm not throwing that. I'm not completely dismissing that guy off the claim.
So Randy, man.
I know. Makes no sense. I totally get it. We'll be back with the late pick 4.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Anthony and Andy. Race number 6. Well, it's a weird race, and we're going to show Addicted to You finishing 3rd before being placed 2nd in the 2 back in a turf race. And Addicted to You is the only horse in this race that has actual turf form of any consequence. It's a very hard horse, however, to take on top at 0 for 15.
It is.
0 for 12 on the turf.
You'd have to imagine that something went wrong on December 2nd at Tampa, because I can't believe that they shipped this horse to Tampa to run once.
I can't believe they shipped the horse to Tampa, period.
Right.
The York bred, why not just stay here? Horse could have gotten a room at Gary's house.
You make a great point.
There's got to be room in the backyard.
I think there's room in the barn. Plenty of stalls.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Shipped down to Tampa and ran once.
Yeah, so I'm sure something went wrong. But back now, back with his friends, as you would say, right? And
Who won yesterday only to get disqualified.
say that again.
Look who won yesterday only to get disqualified. I actually felt bad for Refua.
Yeah.
I mean, it was legit DQ.
Right, but
I actually
finally
felt bad.
get it done.
I actually felt bad for that horse.
Yeah.
And you don't know if the other horse would have gone by or not. And I hate that.
I
It was
saw
never
him
going by.
blinking, and I was just like, wow, what a poor soul.
Oh, actually, I was on with Rick Schosberg. Rick saw it right away. He said he said this horse got to the finish line first, but it may not go well for him. So,
Well, he can win, because like you said, I mean, where's the turf? There's none.
There's no turf for
We had one race here you remember the race here last spring when we first got onto the turf?
Oh,
where
yeah, like it was yesterday.
Temperamental was the only horse that ever ran on the turf?
Yes, the last race. Was there
No, it was
disqualification?
in the middle of the
Oh,
car.
I'm thinking of disqualification.
Morley won it with a first-time, obviously with first-time turf horse. They went wire to wire.
So what's the no regard story?
I had a tip on this horse first time. Had a little trouble at the start.
Good tip.
I had a little trouble at the start, and then they ran him back on the dirt. I don't know. I think there was something where he didn't get into the turf race, so they ran him once on the dirt, and then that was it. They put him away for the winter. Comes back with a gelding. Unlike Addicted to You, this New York bred did stay in New York, even though John Terranova goes to Florida. He stayed here. They brought him back for the state bred races, fresh gelding. He'll break from the rail. No Lasix.
I've got him in there. He seems a little interesting.
Yeah.
I agree. Probably a horse. He's in a stern, but maybe he'll be a horse. I don't know, though. I'm not convinced he's going to stretch out. That's my concern, but he might. I think Miles is the logical one for Christophe Clement. Is a half-to turf winner and quiet out east horse. I've always liked. The dam was a multiple winner of the turf. Second dam was a good dirt horse. Horse got bet first time out. Thought this horse was a little interesting. Kind of got a little prep first time. Running for 40, I get it, but how much are they supposed to run this? Win maiden specials with this horse seem logical. I took October Bliss though, who I thought was an interesting horse for Bruce Brown. It would be a big price. I figured if I'm going to take a shot, am I really going to get 6-1 on a 5-1 on a Bruce Brown horse? I don't know. So I took a shot with this horse. It's a first foal. There's actually very good turf in the second family. It's a good second family turf. The dam was unraced. So there's enough turf for this horse. I thought I'd take a shot. I wouldn't bet this horse at 5-1. I'm going to hope that David's wrong and the horse is a bigger price. He usually isn't wrong, so I'll probably be on the wrong side of that. But I'll take him, and I thought Miles was a right horse. No problem with your horse, no regard. He's certainly not impossible in a sort of impossible race that really just doesn't have a lot of form. Race number 7. Race number 7. We'll start with Splendid Summer, even though I don't think he's going to be favored in here, and we'll look at Splendid Summer. Running
more than work, 7 to 5.
Yeah, I know. I just should have had that. I should have had more than work first in the
That's all
replays.
right.
I sort of went in order of where they were in my form. I don't have a big knock on this horse. I don't love the layoff. But Todd's numbers, I looked at Todd numbers. 6 to 12 months turf routes. He's 20%, 16 for 80, $1.92 ROI. At Naira, he's 7 for 35, so basically the same percentage, 19, with a 2.12 ROI. Those are very good numbers. $1.92 is very good numbers. It's not only Todd Pletcher, who's always at least a half a point to a point lower than anyone else would be, pretty much, and he's winning off layoffs with him. I don't think he ran great in here, but I thought he ran fine. He's certainly very logical here.
I spent half the summer knocking Flavian Pratt. He gave this horse 2 really good rides in his 2 races.
Gave this horse a great ride.
He gave this horse 2 really good rides. I mean, you don't love seeing the long layoff. Now,
But Todd does well off these layoffs, so I'm not. He's not going to be
it
favored.
was a straight 35. That's why he's not in for the waiver. Okay. It was a straight 35. I thought it was 30 to 35. If he was in for 30 to 35, he'd have been allowed to be in for the waiver, but it was a 35. All right, so he's not allowed to be in for the waiver. Got it. I mean, he makes some sense.
The problem with More Than Work, and we'll show More Than Work, I think we're going to show his actual last turf race, which was a second at Fairgrounds. This is going back last winter. The problem with Work is he doesn't win. I mean, look at his PPs. 3 to 1, even money, 5 to 2, even money, 7 to 5, He's got 3 seconds. And this is for Brad Cox, who wins.
Andy, he was 118 to the dollar when he won.
I love those prices. I like the place prices looking at them. Hey, listen, we can make fun of it, but I agree
They're
with the
giving it back,
breakage.
man. They're giving it back.
No, I'm pro breakage,
Yep.
and I think that's a very good thing they've done in Kentucky. It's an extremely player-friendly thing they've done, and it looks funny, and we can laugh about it, but the reality is it's an extremely positive thing they've done for those players. He just doesn't win. Now, what is your story with Mauritius?
I didn't want more than work. I kind of didn't want
Why
Splendid
did you
Summer
want
off the
more than
layoff. Listen, siblings are 1 for 3 on the turf. Tom's had success taking with horses that have never run on the grass and winning. This horse did not do a stitch of running last time. That terrifies me. But this horse has got to be 10, 12, 15 to 1 in here, doesn't he? And I'm just taking a horse a little bit of a price. He's a little bit of a different look. I'll use the 3 of them in multi-race wagers, 3, 6, and 9, and try and get the biggest price home. That was it. I just wanted somebody other than the 2 favorites, and Tom's had some success with horses he's never run on the grass, and there was a little pedigree there. That was it.
I would like to know the story of Roddy Valente giving Bonnie Lucas a horse. So we want to born a Gambler, a horse he had with Charlie Baker before, and we'll show him finishing second, 2 back at Belmont Park.
Off a voided claim in July.
When is the last time Bonnie Lucas won a race in New York?
I don't have an answer to that
She
question.
took over the training of the horses for Wayne Potts. I was just found this very strange. Horse has been gelded since then, because the reality is, off of this race, this horse is a major player here. This is a trainer who's had absolutely no success in New York whatsoever in a long, long time. I just found this to be a strange change. Why did I take Legendary Love? Legendary Love is a half to 2 horse to try the turf. They both won. The dam ran 23 times in the turf with 3 wins and 4 seconds. This horse is a turf move-up on the dam side on the turf. For a trainer whose horses have been absolutely white hot. I know it's a practical joke. The mischief's turned out that he's got some turf winners. We don't know the practical joke is necessarily going to be a turf negative. Obviously, you think of more as dirt. But for a trainer that's been winning, with a horse that has real pedigree, that's going to be a price in here, and I didn't want to put the 9 on top, I'm going to take a little shot with Legendary Lure for a trainer that's been extremely hot and has plenty of pedigree. The New York Stallion Series. The story of the New York Stallion Series is Lifetime of Chance, as we turn over to race number 8. And what happened that this horse, and we'll show the last race, this horse ran a stakes race for Linda Rice and is now switching barns to Mark Casse. I don't know the story.
They consolidated everything for Mark Casse.
A tough horse to take away from a trainer when you have a win like this.
Consolidated everything. That's the story.
I remember they bought Turned Aside off a stakes win for Linda Rice and Paul Pompa in a thing, and they bought the horse for a lot of money and took the horse away from Linda, and the horse maybe ran 1 mediocre race the rest of its career. It's tough to take this horse away from Linda. I got to tell you, I feel bad for Linda. It's got to be tough, and I understand that's the way the game is played.
Here's your question. You believe, you're the figure guy here. You believe this last race?
Oh, I believe it. It could have been higher. The number? This number could have been higher. Could have been lower.
Where did it come from?
Well, the number's right. Where it came from, I don't know. Now, I will say this horse had a lot of trips and had races better than they look. But where this race came from, I have absolutely no idea.
Because even his prior numbers better numbers were on wet tracks. Right? His fast track numbers stunk.
Oh, I'm not. Well, this is a horse that the muddy harrow tracks are not really wet tracks. This horse's race against Lewis Boldy was very good. This horse's debut race was actually very good. No, this horse has run well plenty of times and had plenty of trips. This is a horse that was waiting on a big race, not a 91 buyer. It could have been that high. I don't want this trainer change. I think it's a negative move, taking this horse away from Linda, and I want to see it again. But that was some race this horse ran. The horse runs close to that last race, and they'll all be looking at his butt the entire time away around the track. I mean, this horse ran last time. I think General Banker's the horse to beat. I was talking to David, said it made him 2-1. And I think, well, it will be probably because he runs big races. We'll go back to him winning the last New York Stallion Series race he was in. What's wrong with this horse?
Nothing. I mean, I think David had us to make the other horse the morning line favorite off that race. And you look at this horse's biggest fig came on the muddy sealed track. Listen, he's the only horse to have run in all 4 of our Kentucky Derby preps this winter.
Dirt and dry tracks.
Kudos to him. Coming back in 2 weeks, I don't know what to do with him.
I'm not putting him on top, but I think he's the horse to beat.
He's the horse to beat. His overall form's the horse to beat. You and I took 2 different approaches here.
Well, we'll show Kernus's race, and I want you to tell me what you like about Dr. Kraft.
Well, I'm hoping that there's a little pace in here. With East Coast Girl.
You're right. No, you got that right. There will be very little pace in here. So
I think 10 Cent Town has to show some speed. You gave the Maury speech about the horse you like in the 7th. I think this horse is going to be forward
he'll be sitting
today.
second behind East Coast Girl at a slow pace.
I think he's faster.
Okay, he's not, but okay. East Coast Girl's very fast. So what? This horse didn't run at all last time.
I'm hoping. I know, and that bothers me. But I'm hoping that a little less distance might help this horse and a little bit more pace.
Best race ever ran was in the mile.
I know, but I liked the maiden race. I thought the maiden race was good. Going the 6.5, and I'm hoping that maybe a little bit more pace is what this horse needs and not more distance. So I'm hoping that if there's a little speed, if 10 Cent, for me, the race goes through 10 Cent Town. I need 10 Cent Town to be aggressive and show speed, either be in front or press East Coast Girl. You and I saw the race differently.
Well, you actually, day after day, believe there are going to be paces, despite the fact that day after day you're faced with no paces. East Coast Girl is very fast, and we'll show the last race, gets Jose Ortiz. I know the rail was good last time. I don't deny it. This horse ran last time, and this was a good race. This was a very live race the horse comes out of, and I think people are going to look at this horse and think that she's too cheap in here, or he's too cheap. East Coast Girl is a he. I'm not sure that he's too cheap for these. I thought his last 2 races have been good. And other than Lifetime of Chance and his crazy race last time, his races are as fast, if not faster, than anybody in here. And I think this horse is going to get dismissed as too cheap. And I don't love the fact that the rail has been bad primarily for the last week and a half. And I worry about this horse getting caught down inside. But I think this horse is faster than these horses. And if he breaks cleanly, I'm going to take East Coast Girl wide of the field. I think it'll be a fair enough price. That was a very interesting race.
Yeah.
Even if Coach Pacino scratched. They must love Coach Pacino. For Roddy Valenti to name a horse Coach Pacino, who's his good close friend, he's got to love that horse. You don't name a horse after a good friend of yours unless you at least think the horse is going to turn out to be good.
Down at Gulfstream Park for the winter too.
Yeah. Well, I think Rick likes it when it's warm, so I can't blame him for that.
I was talking about the horse.
Even though he was in Iona, so he was not.
He was not. Yeah. Well, it wasn't freezing. We had a good winter.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Race number 9, we'll take a look at Asset Purchase, who you have on top and I have second in the Busher, and I'll let you talk about her.
Yeah, I almost put Sterling Silver on top too, but I thought she ran really well last time, just on top of the pace with Ziaretti and,
It wasn't a fast pace.
It wasn't a fast pace, but she was still on top of it. She had to deal with the mud and the sealed track last time.
That was a problem for her?
I just feel like if she reverts,
she got tired. She couldn't handle the mile. The distance caught her.
I just feel like if she reverts to her tactics of her debut and she sits off a horse like Mashney Girl, she just lets a target go out there. I just think she's better than these horses. I thought it was 1s and 4s.
She's only run twice.
I just went to the horse.
She's only run twice.
Yeah, but I think she's going to be okay.
I think she's going to be overbet here. I also agree with you. She's the horse to beat in here. But she's stake-faced for those connections.
She's going to be overbet, but I think
and she's going to be overbet in here. And I'm not sure she is the best horse in the race. I think there's an argument. There is no argument. The horse that has run the best races in here is Sterling Silver.
So far, yeah, no question about it.
Yeah, I mean, she obviously has the upside, but why can't Sterling Silver has upside? It's the first start of her 4-year-old year. And I agree, she's going to stalk Mashney Girl. Now, Mashney Girl has a bit of an excuse. She didn't break last time out and then had to rush up into that pace. So actually, Mashney Girl's last race isn't that bad. She's a little bit of a break. I don't think she's totally impossible. But as far as Sterling Silver, no disrespect, by the way, to Javier, why isn't Trevor riding this horse? Trevor gave this horse some great rides last year.
I don't know.
That was a little strange. And I don't, no disrespect to Javier. This is the second in the prioress to Wicked Halo, who's turned into one of the better sprinting fillies in the country. She had a nice win beating Matarea in her return race down at Oaklawn recently. This was the race where I asked Steve Asmussen afterwards, were with Wicked Ayla, did you intentionally skip the test to wait for the 6 furlong race? And he said, me? Skip a race? No.
I didn't skip anything.
Her last race to me was either an extraordinarily foolish ride or a prep race for this. First of all, look at the field she ran in. That was an extremely strong. That field was much better overall than the field that they're running here. What was she doing a length off of a fast pace? This is a filly that wants to sit back and make one run. And I think she'll have every chance to do that and make her run. And I just feel as though, listen, she's 2-to-1 morning line. This is not genius. But I think they're going to way overbet the 4. And I'm not convinced that the 4 has shown that she's supposed to be favored over this horse. And I think her last race wasn't really that bad.
Even one of them's even money, the other one's 2-to-1, 5-2.
I'm just not sure that. And listen, you know I want Asset Purchase to win. It's not I'm not rooting against her, but I just think I'm not sure that she's not supposed to be the favorite. I think her last race served her very well as a prep. It's an interesting matchup, and they are very much the right 2 in there. All right, we're done. Chris Griffin is just getting started. He'll have a reprise to Scratch and Changes after you head over to Naira Bets. Head on over to Naira. Oh, we're almost out of time. Use the promo code Derby25. We'll give you a free $25 bet and a $200 sign-up bonus. We have a cross-country pick 5. All stakes. Keeneland, Aqueduct, Oaklawn starts at 444. That's an easy one to remember with the Elkhorn. Not a crazy stat in the Elkhorn. Middle pick 4, races 2, 3, and 6 for pick 4s today. We also have a $20 bonus, bet 75 or more on Aqueduct, Oaklawn, and Santa Anita. Opt in over at Naira Bets. And finally, 1 to 7, America's Day at the Races on FS2. Covering action from here and Oaklawn Park. We have a team at Oaklawn as well. You guys have a great day. Chris Griffin up next, the reprise, the Scratches and Changes.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.